We're gonna call this meeting of the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors order for Monday, April 29th. These same place is online somewhere. So beginning of the agenda, so comment. So that would be anybody that's online and anybody that's in the room. For any item that's on the agenda. Don't have to raise your hand.
I'll make a comment. I know the agenda item, was for salary for the interim. And what I would suggest, because she is already a full-time employee and somebody's still gonna have to do her full-time duties, how much of the duties is she going to have to perform? And who's gonna perform hers? Are we gonna come back here in a month and say, or in 2 weeks and say, well, somebody's doing my duties, they need a raise? And it should be commensurate with experience. If she has exactly the same experience as Brian's, the salary should go according to experience.
We'll be out there. Hold on. Oh, there's another one.
Lee,
Yeah, hello.
I just have a
Would you
comment.
tell people, I'm just kidding.
I'm Chris Estel, I'm the public health administrator. I just have a comment as far as, and this is not a directive statement about the ambulance. This is about a process or a system level concern. So it could be any department that doesn't have an elected official is what I'm saying. And there's several of us in the county. So with that being said, my concern is if the interim would, for whatever reason, not receive the position once it's posted, then what does that do to his or her salary? That's my concern. If you give somebody a raise now and then they're not the one that ends up getting the job, the full-time job, then what do you do with that? A lot of times it was brought up the other day, one of the meetings about, making it retroactive, or the other thing is that person could receive a stipend for the work that he or she did in that process, but it just sets precedents for the rest of us that continue to do more with less, especially during these budget times. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I've got a comment.
Okay. And you
Um,
are?
Thank you, Lee.
Yeah.
Last week you accepted Brian's resignation, but he's not actually done till July the 12th, so you're gonna continue to pay him. And I do not think you should be paying somebody else his same salary that long, because all along I've been sitting in budget hearings. You are squeezing things as tight as you can, and I don't think you need to be extending more money right now on that. And down the road, when he is fully gone, then maybe consider it. Until then, I don't think it's a good idea.
Are we going to be expecting anyone from the ambulance service here today?
I can answer that. Judy has a new employee starting, so she's not going to be able to attend today.
How convenient.
Lee, can I piggyback off of Joe?
I'm sorry, what?
Can I piggyback off of Joe?
Well,
Right on ahead.
yeah.
Okay. I think it actually kind of looks good that Judy's not there, that she's actually in the office doing work as opposed to taking time off to be in this meeting. That's just my own personal opinion. As far as Joe's comment, I don't know that it was necessarily made clear last week regarding how long Brian was there, what he was going to get paid, what his duties are. Is he still considered the director? Is he not the director? If he isn't, then what's the justification, like Joe said, to continuing the current salary that he has? Was that part of the resignation agreement? I think there's some things that needed clarification from you guys regarding what's going to happen moving forward for the next few months. With Judy in particular, if she is going to be the interim director and you three deem it necessary, maybe not necessary, but deem it the right thing to do to increase her salary in some facet, where that money's coming from, I think, is more important than what we're paying. To Joe's point, we are squeezing blood from a turnip right now. countywide. If this is a situation where Judy is taking on additional responsibility, a precedent like Chris Estel mentioned is being set regarding offices that do not have an elected official at the helm, great. But the county citizens, the county employees, everybody that's listening in or should be listening in needs to know where you guys plan on getting that money and the justification for why you guys are getting that money or why you guys are actually giving that money out. With that said, the next thing would be the third party to evaluate the processes and operate, the efficiency expert. I'm going to use my office for an example. If I'm not doing things the way that they need to be done, I'm pretty sure that I wouldn't be able to go to you guys and say, hey, I need to hire someone to see if I'm doing my job correctly. My opinion is that the 3 supervisors who are in charge of the ambulance service, like they are in charge of Dave Taft, like they are in charge of the road crew, you 3 in particular need to determine the efficiency of the ambulance service. It does not need to be a third party. Especially, as I said, squeezing blood from a turnip. If you guys can't figure this out, then there's a bigger issue. You 3 need to be more involved. Lee and I had a very long conversation last week, and I will just be completely blunt about this. Lee is very, very passionate about this, and Lee is the only one of you 3 who seems to give a damn when it comes to the people who are out there. Susie went out there with me because I repeatedly asked her to go. Dee, I believe, has only been out there maybe twice since this thing started. Whereas Lee has maybe made this an extremely personal thing. He's gone from it being more of a pet project to an absolute passion. And as I told Lee last week, I can't think of anybody better to be that dog with a bone when it comes to the folks in the ambulance. I believe that the other 2 of you need to show a little bit more ambition when it comes to what goes on day to day out there. We don't need an efficiency expert. We need the 3 people that we elected to take care of this county who, over the course of last year, have tried to put 10 pounds of manure in a 5-pound bag to help clean it up. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate it. Anybody else? Still got,
There was someone that just asked, if it's typical for somebody on the online, they asked if it's typical for somebody to receive a severance package if they resigned.
well, and only way that I personally can answer that is it's the only individual that we've had in the years that I've been here that resigned. Okay, so is it typical? I guess it is in this situation. I wasn't involved in the process of the severance package, the details of the severance package.
I think that's a question best for Chauncey that I think we can address. You know, we're in public comments, so we are supposed to be listening. I think we can address a lot of this when we get to the agenda items that are on the agenda.
Anybody else?
Well, and
Oh.
I would like to know if you weren't in on the process, there's 3 of you, who was?
Well, I would assume, again, this would be for Chauncey, but I would assume that our legal representative was involved in the discussions in terms of what was in the best interest of the county at the time. So when I say it's a unique situation, I don't mean that it is unique necessarily in the world of government, both national, state, and local. But in our particular instance, relatively speaking, it's unique. And as with anything else, and Mark alluded to it, and he's right. You know, there's going to be hiccups in anything that we do, and so it's a learning process. But at any rate, any more public comments? Doorbell would be fine. All right, moving on. I would accept a motion to acknowledge the minutes of April 22nd, 2024. Don't everybody jump here at once, huh?
I make a
And-
accept the minutes of April 22nd, 23rd, and 24th.
Okay,
Right?
you just do it all at once. Funny how that worked out, isn't it? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meet with the county engineer. He's already gotten an earful this morning, haven't you?
Good morning, supervisors. Well, that's what I'm here for.
Okay,
Norris is on Glasgow Road, starting that portion of their patching. I know it's not convenient with the cure also on Glasgow Road for the Burlington Street Bridge, but it's a small delay. They'll be out of the way in a few days and life will go on. They'll get that done and then I don't know if they'll lose access to the mill again and be out for a little while, but we'll keep you posted as that goes. We're still down in Quinn's district for contract rock. We're about halfway through. That's the southeast quadrant of the county. I've been getting a lot of phone calls from the Crohn's about 110 and wanting us to put dirt on that. And my position on that is that we've got roads that need dirt more than 1/10 does. And short of the city of Pleasant Plain changing their mind on the status of their portion of the project, I don't see a lot of benefit in us doing anything else other than the standard level B maintenance on that stretch of road.
I'm gonna ask a layman's question, stupid question, whatever. What is the advantage to putting more dirt on a dirt road?
Well, the road that we are intending to do when it dries out is Peach Avenue west of Pleasant Plain, where the road is at the same elevation at the bottom of the ditches.
Okay, I got you.
So then you've got a pond.
Right.
And because it's a fairly long flat stretch, we really can't ditch it to create drainage. So we need to raise the road to basically make it a little less weather sensitive. It's still a dirt road and it's still gonna get muddy, but this way it will dry out quicker.
Right. Okay.
Let's see, other than that, Lee gave me a list of things to work through and look at, so. I went to the grant writing boot camp last week, and picked up a lot of good tips and also some templates to use, so I think it was time well spent. And then I will be over in Ames at a research update Wednesday afternoon. Other than that, Dee, when are you gonna be back in the county?
Sunday,
Okay, so you're gone all week?
yeah.
All right. I've got a permit for you to sign whenever you get back in, but that can wait.
If it can wait, otherwise Lee can sign it.
Oh, well, we can do that. If you would, sir. Yeah, we're working. Next week, I should have the cover sheet for the Libertyville Road Bridge plans for you guys to approve and sign off on. I'm still working on the temporary and permanent easements for that project. Things are just chugging along in the road department.
So we had any issues with all the water that we've gotten of late?
No, not really. We've had very minimal complaints. And with our work order system, people will call in with a problem area. Melissa enters it in and Bob or Billy assigns it to the appropriate person and you usually get them taken care of. The The only thing we're really behind on is the culverts, and we'll have crews working on those off and on all season long, but they're just one of those things with as many culverts as there are in the county. We will never be caught up on those.
Right.
We work on them as the order and they come in and the severity.
Okay, anything else?
No, sir.
Anything else for Dwayne? All right, discuss and consider MOU with the city of Fairfield regarding Prairie Ridge Campground Development. Who is Elizabeth? Are you familiar with this?
Somewhere, yeah.
More.
Mm-hmm.
So Sean and I, oh, there he is. Okay.
Morning.
I'll just let you pick the ball and run with it.
Well, just for those that don't know, our campground project has started on Key Boulevard, and as part of that project, our engineer had designed in, there'll be full sewer hookups, and there's a main city sewer main that's run through Jefferson County Park probably since before the park was created. And it's right there, easy to tie into versus us building a large septic field. So that was the route we were pursuing, and had talked to Melanie Carlson with the city and kind of had a plan all set up. And as part of that, they came up with a memorandum of understanding that kind of laid out who would do what. They want a easement for their portions of the sewer that we are using to tie in. And that's basically for maintenance. And I think that's how they do things in this day and age. A lot of the stuff I would say half the park's facilities are already entering into that sewer system, and they've just been grandfathered in from probably 40 years ago when the original buildings and campground were put in. And we've always got along pretty well with them. One of the main things, and I think the reason we're here, that they've asked is for us to voluntarily annex the campground portion of this development, which lays right along Key. I've got maps if you're unfamiliar, but I think you know where the campground's being built. And if you look on the map, Jefferson County Park basically is surrounded on the north and the east by city limits. So I think this probably is more of just a thing where the city, I think they have goals to expand their city limit boundaries at times. Whether it's right or wrong, that's what we're here to discuss, but it will be a benefit to us. I think as far as at least that's what they tell me, the fee structure on our sewer and water, we're already paying the city for the water that we use in the park in the past. And actually, the portion of the park that's north of the old right-of-way, which would be in the industrial park area, is already in city limits. So I think it's just step by step over the years, the city is growing around us, and I think unless you guys have more to add, I think my board is fine with this agreement, but I think Chauncey and Lee wanted to have a little bit more information and discussion. And I think the other thing I haven't mentioned, we will be adding some form of general request so that the city will acknowledge that we want to continue to control the management of the property as a county park. Things like burning, we have a deer hunt in the park. We don't want that canceled out by city regulations or rules, and that hasn't been an issue right now. But if more and more of that park falls under city limits, I think that'd be the one concern, that we don't want whatever future city rules that might impede our management to be part of that property, so. I don't know if you guys have anything to add or concerns I haven't mentioned.
Well, I mean, we did discuss with the city, and Chauncey and Lee, maybe you guys had some other questions for the city regarding annexation and whether or not they would agree to not annex. Our understanding is that that's not really an option. They can't promise not to annex because they have to, they can't create islands. So if all of the property around the park is annexed, they created an island essentially, which they're not allowed to do by code. That's my understanding.
I think the way we kind of left it is we wanted to set up a meeting, maybe a working group with a couple of members of the city council and somebody from the board, somebody from conservation to kind of hammer out either an MOU or some type of understanding as to what will maintain, in the event there is an annexation sometime in the future, what would be off the table as far as rules for Jefferson County Park.
Well, and I apologize to the entities. I mean, we would love to partner with the city. That's not an issue. But I'm the one that kind of threw the monkey wrench into it the other day when Sean brought it up because I was concerned about the county being subject to zoning laws if annexed in by the city. And then the question about creating islands, where does that leave? For example, Jefferson County Park, is that grandfathered? And clearly, it's annexed around the Jefferson, or not Jefferson County, well, Jefferson County Park actually too, is still in the county, as is the fairgrounds, which is what I was starting to allude to. And again, partnering with the city and the issue and all the help with the water and the sewer is phenomenal. But I echo Sean's concerns and maybe a few more. As the city tends to expand, whether it's to bring in some of the subdivisions that are around the park into the city limits or whatever, it concerns me that we don't have control. And it's going to sound horrible, but I don't know how else to put it because I'm not that smart. But if we have neighbors now that are within the city limits that are subject to certain zoning laws and requirements and ordinances of the city, but their neighbor isn't subject to that, that gives me pause for thought that we may find ourselves in a. So I'm just thinking that we need to have, but just what Chauncey and Elizabeth would be working on. I just think we need to have a memorandum of understanding that spells out specifically those issues, what our rights are as a county government and a county owned entity as opposed to city zoning ordinance laws and stuff. If that makes any sense. If it doesn't, I apologize.
And maybe more specifically, in the event, sometime in the future, there is an annexation, what would be the critical concerns from conservation, such as hunting and burning and anything else that might come up that we could exclude from any future eventualities?
Well, it's my understanding that the city does want to annex that in. Am I wrong there?
Well, I don't know their future goals, but for us to tie into their sewer, and this is the part I'd like to get solved maybe sooner than later, because they're already in construction now. If they annex, or if we voluntarily ask to annex that portion, it's not going to create an island at this time. I mean, they may piece by piece over time, whether that's 5, 10, 20 years, I don't know. I know what the development has been over the last 25 years, and we've gone from being on the edge of town to now being surrounded by subdivisions. And I understand that that's basically a part of Fairfield, whether it's county or city. Those people are, for most purposes, living as residents of the city. I mean, right across the road from our entrance, there's an owner that has already annexed I believe as a portion of the sewer improvements they did down through the back of the middle school. And that, to me, that's the benefit. It's not only a benefit to the city, because we're for a lot of purposes, a city park. We have people come out from town daily and use it year round because of the proximity to Fairfield. And again, when we have water, utilities, sewer right there, that's able to be
Access.
cleaned and versus the septic, we also have septic arrangements, and those are obviously a different animal, but I don't think they're as good for us as far as the long-term maintenance and replacement and environmental, the discharge from those and things is an ongoing maintenance thing. So I think you just can't deny it. I mean, if the
Right.
city grows and you're on the edge of town, that you're probably gonna be engulfed at some point. And I think that's their point of view is that, okay, you're wanting to tie into our services and you're right on the edge of town, maybe you'd like to annex into the city limits and that's why we're discussing this, because I don't want to make the decision. My personally and my board's perspective is this is a benefit to the park. So we're gonna do what it takes to tie
I know,
into that
yeah.
sewer versus build a septic and that's one little goal of ours, but I know there's other issues.
And I agree with you. I think that's a critical benefit in both in terms of financial costs going down the road as well as maintenance costs, and everything. That's a win-win. And I don't personally, the annexation in and of itself is not particularly an issue. It's being able to retain jurisdiction, control over our facilities and having not being subject to certain things. And so I guess to Chauncey's statement about forming a work group and hammering out some of the details, that's all I appreciate what the city's wanting to do and allowing us to hook in. I'm 100% for that. I think it's beneficial all the way around, but I also know we need to look down the road a bit and
The idea is with this particular situation, it's not uncommon that we create maybe a conservation district where the county acts as if they always have. They are, the current rules that they have is applicable just to them. And the thing between the city and the county is you're right, that we don't want to have competing jurisdictions. We want to have overlapping. Because the common theme that I do see is it's the city or the county. It should be the city and the county. And we need to be working in tandem. And we need to allow, we're not trying to encroach, but as we provide city services, as we grow, we're trying to follow all the state codes and laws, and it's really important that we get through this and we'll work it out together. I don't, the city's not after a power grab. That's not what this is about. It's that we have, as we grow, we're growing about 6.5% a year, which is relatively quick. And those boundaries, it's an imaginary line that we have to comply with. And just, make sure that all the MOUs are in place that we can operate as we need to operate, but the county can operate as they see fit.
so I'll leave that up to you guys.
We just want to set something up,
Well, however, you guys want to handle it.
unless we got it on the board.
You wanna, make the arrangements or whatever, but
I mean, I would imagine be somebody from conservation, somebody from the board, and whoever from the city to hammer something out.
that works for me.
Is that gonna be you, Luke?
I don't care if it's okay with the board. If
It's
somebody
okay
else-
with me.
It's okay.
Yeah, so I'll there, Sean and whoever you want from your board and whoever wants from the city, and then just we'll go from there. I think the concerns are relatively easy to. They're not the small hurdles, they're low hurdles as far as the partner goes, but, and I really do appreciate what the city is offering and wanting to do, but this project is, as Sean indicated, is moving pretty quick. So we just need to get something.
Yeah.
Oh, we got,
Budget hearing time.
okay,
Thank you.
perfect timing, Sean. So, it is 9 AM by our handy dandy clock. And so we have a public hearing for the fiscal year 2025 county budget, consider appropriation by service area and consider departmental appropriation. Did I do that right? That's good. So I would entertain a motion to,
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
all those in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye.
And so I will go ahead and read this and so that they can, any public comments. So the fiscal 24-25 fiscal year county budget and certification of taxes be adopted with the maximum expenditure set out as follows. Public safety and legal services, $6,255,565,000. Physical health and social services, $1,083,634. County environment and education, $800,732. Roads and transportation, $4,424,750. Government services related to residents, $738,207. Administration, $2,723,323. $0 for non-program. Debt service, $853,307. Capital projects, $594,700 for a total of $17,474,218. And then I'll give it to you by department, so everybody has that. So the Board of Supervisors is $2,345,658. Auditor is $469,044. Treasurer is $471,890. County Attorney, $609,259. Sheriff, $3,945,669. Recorder, $318,690. County Engineer, $4,549,750. Veterans Affairs, $54,833. Conservation Board, $1,013,481. Health Board, $456,697. Weed Commission, $3,000. Social Services, $42,025. Environmental Health, $104,200. Medical Examiner, $45,000. District Court, $141,500. Ambulance, $1,492,082. I thought that said cents at first. Mental Health Administration, $218,387. Non-departmental, $1,116,753. Again, for a total of $17,474,218. Some of that, for example, like the Mental Health Administration is a pass-through. So it pays for mental health administration, but is reimbursed through the region. District Court, it's a requirement by state law that we fund District Court. Social Services, we have to fund social services or portion of it. Even though it's a state department, we do get some reimbursement and we hire a company called Cost Allocation Services to help us recoup some of those dollars. Are there any public comments? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
second,
All those in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye. Okay. Now, consider budget appropriation by service area and consider departmental budget appropriation. Where did Shannon go? out the door. That's not good.
So you want a motion to approve those?
Yeah, we've already done the public hearing, right?
Right,
So that's done, right? Okay. Yes, so I
okay, I'll
would,
make a motion to approve the budget appropriation by service area.
second, discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I'll make a motion to approve departmental budget appropriation.
Do we have a second?
A second.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All right, thank you. All right, moving back up the ladder to, oh, there's another one. Discuss and consider any options county may have to protect property rights from private companies. Now, I put that on the agenda for a specific reason. Based on some news reports I had coming out of the state, I pretty much know the answer to this, but I'm glad that our attorney is here. I'm concerned in regards to, and I don't know how much of an impact it'll have here, but I'm concerned in regards to the carbon capture pipeline. And it's probably going to end up in court, probably beyond us if I'm thinking right, Elizabeth, but that is, in my estimation, not a utility. And I'm not sure where the Iowa Utilities Board will come down on that, or even if they have jurisdiction. But I don't think that it's appropriate. And I know that the previous board sent a letter to the Iowa Utilities Board expressing their concern, which maybe is the only thing we've got, and we might need to reiterate that. But I don't think it's appropriate to allow a private company access to private property against the property owner's will. It's one thing if it's roads, it's one thing if it's utilities, which the Iowa Utilities Board, utilities, but this is not a utility, and I don't know if the county can create any type of ordinance or restriction against capturing private property for other private property uses.
Yeah, so not having, I guess, a lot of information about this agenda item beforehand.
Sorry.
I mean, it's okay. I mean, I could say something off the cuff and I could say no, but I could also do some more research because I think this kind of goes along the lines of, I mean, you're talking about eminent domain right now. Where it's not with the consent of the property owner. But I know, I guess when I saw this agenda item, I thought maybe it also had to do with the windmills.
Not so much because I suppose it could apply. And now as we talk, I remember what the House, state legislature on the House side had passed a restriction on the use of eminent domain by carbon capture pipeline, et cetera. The Senate refused to take it up. And so consequently, it died at the end of the session. To me personally, the issue is a private company for profit taking private property. Now, I'm not saying they wouldn't compensate the property owner, but I believe that the property owner, a private property owner, should have the right to say no to another private property entity. And I just don't know whether the county has any possible role in being able to help the private property owners from that. It's a big can of worms, isn't it?
Right, so whether or not the county can restrict.
Right. Because we're specifically talking, private property. And I'm reminded, I don't know how many of you are familiar or remember, but there was an issue in West Burlington, I believe it was, or Burlington proper, years ago, across from the Wendy's restaurant on Highway 61. There was a bunch of old homes there that were World War II homes. A lot of folks that used to work back in the ordnance plant days lived there. The developer out of Minnesota came along and said, hey, we'd like to do this. Burlington started condemning all of the homes that nobody would wanted to sell. Eventually cleared it all out, and then the developer goes, "Oh, we changed our mind." And it was specifically a purpose because there was a higher, they would generate more tax revenue with the development than they would with those homes that were there. And so the city, I guess, seeing the greater public good, that has always concerned me, and the exercise of eminent domain for private for-profit entities. And I just think that they should have the right to say no without being the exercise of eminent domain. Yeah.
I would, yeah, I don't know anything really about the carbon, but I do know a lot of the area. Landowners have signed up for carbon credits. That might be a loophole that they didn't read all the fine print, but that would be something that I would look into because there's a lot that have signed up for carbon credits.
And the voluntary agreements are perfectly fine. It's those that don't want it. And again, to me, I'm not sure what jurisdiction the Iowa Utilities Board would have over something that by definition is not a public utility. But anyway, so that's why I put it on there.
Right.
And so I dumped it in your lap.
That's fine. I'll do some additional research on it.
Okay, thank you. Discuss and consider funding authorized audit for Jackson Point. I'm gonna let Chauncey speak to that if he.
So the Jackson Point facility, we have an audit that pursuant to our agreement with our limited partner needs to be done annually in order to qualify with the federal liens for this life housing program. For one reason or another, that has been done every year by our partner, but it was not done this year. However, we shake this out in the long term, we do need to provide that audit in order to be consistent with our obligations under the loan program. So I'm asking that the supervisors authorize the traditional auditor out of Des Moines. I can't recall what the company is, but they have all the records, they have all the data. It should take them, less than a couple hours to do the audit for fiscal year 23. That they do that just to comply with the rules, and we provide that to our interested partners, and then follow up with Burns, who has been assisting with this up to this point.
Do we know how much that'll cost?
I don't have the raw numbers. It should be $1,000 or two, less than 2,000. And that's we do have some obligations that we need to stay consistent with. And frankly, I'm not sure why this was not done by the entity that typically has done it, well, every year for the last 17 years. But I've been getting notices a couple times a week from PNC stating we need our audit in order to stay compliant. We need to do this, and we need to sort out who and why it wasn't covered for 23, essentially just to stay in compliance with the terms of that loan program.
So I'm wondering, I don't know what line item we could take it out of, probably our buildings line item.
I think that'd be appropriate. It's for a building that the county has an interest in, so.
So I would make a motion to authorize the audit for Jackson Point and take it out of our buildings line item for this current fiscal year.
Second.
Any discussion?
And just for the board's information, I suspect that'll be substantially less than $2,000. If it's more than 2,000, I'll come back to you. It should be less than 1,000.
Okay.
Thank you, Chauncey.
We have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And I will give a committee report on Jackson Point later that'll help bring some of that into focus. Discuss and consider hiring. Discuss and consider interim ambulance director salary. So I'll take this ball and start with it. We've had a lot of discussion, all of which I believe is very valid. And I have several concerns, but to start with, because of the circumstances surrounding the agreement that was entered into between the previous director of operations. So we're still paying that salary. And to Mark's point, or to Mark's question, it's my understanding that no, he is not the director of operations. He is providing some training to bring the interim director up to speed on the insurances and all of that, the billing and all of that stuff. And also in answer to the question, she being Judy Heisel, is also doing her previous duties, which is the scheduling and all of the things that the supplies and the drugs and whatnot. I don't mean to say she's doing drugs, but I mean ordering the drugs and that sort of thing. But with all of that being said, for me personally, I don't think that it's appropriate at this point in time, strictly from a financial consideration, to pay two people. Well, we're paying both folks, but to increase the salary, I think is, I just don't think it's financially appropriate. And so while I believe that she is doing double duty, or has assumed the duties or responsibilities of the director, that doesn't change the financial dynamic in my estimation. So for me personally, and the other thing is, and that's probably a topic for a discussion at a later time, but we've talked about posting the job. I'm not sure that, and it's a conversation that we can have, I'm not sure that unless the board is specifically looking to go in a different direction, when our years ago, when our road maintenance supervisor retired, we promoted from within the organization. When that individual moved on, we promoted again from within the organization. If we eliminate a position, I believe that we are within our rights to promote from within the organization. That obviously, we would have to operate under the advice of counsel. But that being said, this makes it very difficult on the person that we quote have appointed as the interim, not knowing what their status is going to be in 3 months or 4 months or whatever the case may be. So I don't know whether it was Mark or someone else, maybe it was Joe, someone brought up. How do you go back once you approve a salary increase for an individual unless, so I just think I think it's fraught with all kinds of pitfalls. And I think that while I acknowledge the effort that's being put forward, and the increased role that she has taken on, I would not support an increase in salaries at this time. I just don't think financially it's appropriate.
The main difference in the job duties, as my understanding, is the billing piece. And so that's what it is.
Say that again, Dee. I didn't quite catch
The
all that.
difference in job duties, it's my understanding, because I have been out there, is the increase in billing duties.
Yeah, and I mean, she's indicated.
That was a question that was brought up. I was just providing that
Right.
answer.
She has indicated that she can do both positions, which I'm not arguing that one way or the other because I couldn't do either one. And you have to, insert an element of trust. None of that is lost on me, but again, I think it's a financial component. If we weren't paying someone already, then you could look at that differently because you would say, well, we're saving $85,000 a year by not paying that individual. We can afford to increase the other one, but since both are still coming out of the checkbook, I just don't think we can.
Right?
No, I would agree with that 100%. I think this time I don't, obviously we're gonna list those jobs. So obviously if anybody applies, they will have a chance at that job.
We will be posting the job. That's required that we post the job. One of the things I'm going to work on this week is combining the job descriptions so that the board has something to discuss, hopefully next week. I don't know, it depends if Jack can look at it and put his input into it and then get it to the board so that we can move forward on that. Or come up with a different plan.
So the line item is to discuss and consider interim ambulance director's salary. I will put a motion out there to see whether or not it catches steam, that we do not increase the interim ambulance director's salary at this time.
I'll second.
I would agree with that as well.
So we have a motion.
Discussion.
I'm sorry.
Discussion?
Yeah, I was gonna say we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I just want to put out there that she did indicate she wanted to have the same salary, and I'm just putting that out there as a statement that was made.
Well, I
As-
don't think that that's
As the former,
necessarily.
as the
Go ahead.
former director, to clarify that.
I don't think that's an unreasonable request. I don't, but again, you're paying two people. And that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Right, I'm not saying I'm for or against that. What I'm
Right.
saying is I'm just communicating what she had said, since she's not here.
Dee, I think that we are not in a position to give anybody a raise out there. Where'd you go?
Dee, where'd you go? Hello, Dee.
I think her camera fell.
At any rate, how can you give somebody a raise if they're just filling in for a little bit? We don't know who's gonna get that position. What about we give her that raise? I didn't say what to do. What if we did? And then she doesn't get the job?
Sorry, my computer just fell down.
I called it.
Under the employment rules, if you give somebody a raise, then you take it away from them, they're eligible for unemployment.
Well, I think the other thing that we've got a motion and you're right, we got a motion
Yeah.
and a
Call for
second on
vote.
the table. So,
I believe, do you think we're done with discussion?
we can,
Can I,
sure.
I guess it's a question more towards Chauncey, and I don't know what Judy makes. But is she currently under the threshold of the revised federal guidelines for hourly overtime?
No.
The ones that passed very
Just
recently.
recently. And if so, I mean,
Honestly, I don't know what her hours are, right? I believe they're substantial.
They are.
they just bumped it up.
Isn't
by
she
about-
exempt?
Yeah, the new guidelines, she's not under, she's above that.
But my other thought was if she is doing
last week though.
extended hours, that the fair thing would be to figure some way to prorate the hours she was working beforehand, what she's doing by assuming.
Well, I also know, for
Correct
example, and
position.
this is the thing
That's-
that the public needs to know, I think. Besides the duties that she performs and the increased duties that she's taken on, she also worked a truck this weekend.
Yeah, she did.
And, part of that issue is as a result of, because of the circumstances that have arisen, we are short a paramedic, and we have another paramedic that is on medical leave. And we do have another paramedic that will be taking on a new position out west as a flight medic, which I think is awesome in terms of being able to do that. But, so that means that she has to step in and fill in some of those gaps when she's scheduling, which she has done, and that's just for the record. But, so we have a motion and a second on the interim ambulance director salary, and I appreciate what Dwayne has indicated. Anyway, all those in favor of the motion? Say aye. Aye.
Aye.
That's all three, right? Okay. So there will be no increase in the interim ambulance director salary. I do think that it would be appropriate to ask the question, and with the director here, with the attorneys here, when Dee gets back next week, I think we need to have a discussion as to what I mean, if put yourself in this position, if you're an interim anything, and so you start implementing programs and changes and so on and so forth, because you think that that's the right direction to go, there's things that you see that need to be changed, and we approve those changes and believe that they're appropriate. And then 3 months or 4 months later, we hire somebody else and throw the baby out with the bathwater. A lot of that doesn't make sense to me. That if we're moving forward, then let's move forward. If we're not going to move forward till we bring somebody else in or till we as a board make a decision, then do we just maintain the status quo till we get that decision made?
And I think that
Go ahead.
discussion, let's go to the next agenda item because we might be able to help clarify some of that.
Okay, discuss and consider hiring third party to evaluate the processes and operation of the Jefferson County Ambulance Service.
Okay, so, again, to help answer some of the questions that were brought up during the public comment, I was brought in, Chauncey had originally received a complaint that he acted on. I was asked the same day that he met to just come in and be in his office to be available. So from that standpoint, I was in the building. I was not involved in all the conversations. At that time, or actually it was after that, I learned that it's the investigator Chauncey Hughes has, they specialize in like the Chapter 80F kind of investigations. And then as part of that, or adjacent to that, I guess you would say, he has a consulting business. And I put in had Abby put in your packet, the proposal to have him come down and look. It would cost 10 to 15,000. I called him after I received this and said, we can't wait 60 days for this because he had put that in there. And he said, I honestly think we could do that in 30, but I didn't want to overcommit and then not meet it. So he does have a revised copy that has 30 to 45 days as the absolute end date. And he would request certain items, a review of the current staffing model to determine appropriate number of staff and work schedule to most efficiently and effectively meet the needs of your community, review of current procedures and policies to ensure the best practices are implemented, recommendations regarding any changes to current practices will accompany this review, a review of the current billing practices of the service to ensure the county is billing appropriately for services rendered and collecting the optimum revenue for these services. A site visit and interviews with current employees is proposed as part of this evaluation. Assessing the current culture and morale are vital components to setting goals toward a happy and productive workforce. A variety of documents and information will be requested from the county and the EMS service for review in order for this evaluation to be accurate and meaningful. And then he revised the agreement to be 30 days, no later than 45 days. And so based on this scope, work time necessary to complete this process has been estimated at a cost of 10 to 15,000. We can guarantee to not to exceed maximum. proposed estimate and work efficiently as possible to provide best product for the budget. We anticipate the work to be completed on the lower end of the estimate. If we approve this, I would propose we take it out of, we've got 132,000 of the money left from COVID that is the authority the supervisors have to spend, and this is quite appropriate because the reason that we have the ambulance as a county run service is because when CARE breached the contract, partially because of staffing due to COVID, it was determined then that the county was going to do the county run service. In doing research with other counties, our budget's within the ballpark for the number of visits per year that we're doing. I think we should be able to do things more efficiently. We've often said that initially we had the base manager and the director position to get up and running. Now's the time to really assess and hopefully be able to go to one of those. I think spending $10,000 or $15,000 out of that COVID money would be money well spent, because these would be people that actually have run ambulance services to evaluate this.
I think the first thing we need to, if Shannon, can you have Shannon come over, because I'll make sure, I don't think that $132,000 is sitting there on an island. I think it's in a budget process.
I'll go wherever.
I think it's in the budget, which is,
Yeah.
It's the CARES money.
Right. It's the other one.
Isn't it the CARES money?
Yeah, that's,
So I think these right, at least right. I
Yeah, it
think
says
it's-
CARES funding, $132,000.
yeah, but what I mean is, I know that it's sitting on an island, right? But it's all figured into our operating budget.
remember, she has to put it in so that we can have the authority to spend it.
I'm in the middle of helping somebody at our counter.
Okay, there was, I just a quick question.
Okay.
Is the $132,000 sitting there for the CARES project, is that on an island? Or is it in our operating budget? It's just,
It's in your operating budget in your department. You haven't designated it to be used for anything in
Okay.
particular that I'm aware
okay. That's what I needed to know. Thank
of.
you.
Okay, yep.
If I can just jump in on one issue here,
I want to see you jump.
I think that
I think that's a no.
if we're gonna be doing this, I don't think it's a bad idea necessarily. I wonder if it would be appropriate, I know we're under the gun time-wise, if we just put this out for a rapid bid, for an audit or an efficiency consultant, however we want to place that title or that designator, just because, we have a good proposal here that I think is valid, but with that type of expense, I wonder if it would be appropriate to just put it out there for a competitive bid.
I do have a question, since they said the amount already.
Correct.
This, well,
What the quote amount is.
it's a range, yes, so we could put it out for a bid for a specific number. It would be a county outlay, it would be inappropriate to put that up.
Like 0 to. A little more than that or something.
Right, right.
Well, I will. That's a question then for the board to determine, if you want to research other options. Because it does say discuss and consider hiring third party. So we can put that out for bid if we choose to do so, or we can squash it here if we choose to do so, or, but on the advice of council, I think we at the very least, if the board is interested in moving forward on this, I think you ought to do I don't know, what would you say, put it out on, what's today, would be?
We can put it out today, have bids received by Monday, open Monday and select one if that's what you want to
Have them come into the auditor's office timestamp
do. Right,
by a specific time.
yeah.
That's okay with me.
I can't assume.
It's okay with Dean.
Oh, okay. So is that a motion?
That's fine, yes.
Second.
And I think would we want to put a salary or put a cap on that?
Not to exceed?
You do more bids than anybody else.
That's what you're looking at is more like hiring a consultant where you want requests for qualifications and pricing more than an actual bid
Right.
because.
I could bid it for about $35.
Yeah, are you a qualified ambulance expert? You know, and to Mark's
I would do it Friday.
statement earlier about you guys being the managers of that, you know, I have no more idea what it takes to run an ambulance department than you guys or Chauncey, you know, I know basically how to manage people, but so the ins and outs of it and what's the most efficient way to use those people, I think if you can find some specific language for what you're looking at for a expert, that would be, I think it would be my most benefit. I'm just the engineer.
Can I ask this question to the supervisors?
Yeah.
You guys now have an interim director and the former director who is in essence training the interim director. Judy is basically doing two people's job at this time unless Damien or somebody else jumps in. I'm pretty sure, and she's running truck and she's. I'm pretty sure until at least July 15th, the efficiency isn't going to be all that efficient because they're running short. So you're wanting to pay somebody to come in and tell you that until at least July 12th, when you hired someone, it's not efficient. Shouldn't that be the job of the new director to create that efficiency? If you're going to pay somebody 85 grand a year, that should be their job. So why are we paying somebody 15 grand, especially when you won't give the interim director a bump in salary? Why are we giving somebody else 15 grand to go out there and say, yeah, Judy's running around like a chicken with her head cut off?
And I would add to that being as in the interim, during this interim period, you do not, I wouldn't think, want to eliminate Judy's base manager job. If it's decided to go with somebody else, you've just created, you know, where there's not a position for her. So if, you know, I think you just need to be careful the order you do things to make sure you protect everybody.
And for me personally, to Mark's point, I mean, and to your point, I couldn't even drive an ambulance, let alone, you know, well, I guess if it's an automatic, I might be able to.
Write that down.
But yeah, right, okay, but my point simply is that we have an individual with 25 plus years experience in doing this, both at the management level as well as running a truck and saving lives and how to run an operation, and has been both in the private world and albeit for a short time in the public world. And while there are significant differences between the two as far as the public's perception, in terms of you're much more in the public eye when you're in a public entity, goes with the territory. Nothing wrong with that. But I agree. I think, you know, you rely on, and you look at, or again, I go back to what I said earlier, and I know Dee said that it was a discussion for another time, but I don't think it is. I think the question is, to Mark's point, we're not going to give a salary increase, which I think was the appropriate decision. But we're going to turn around and take that money that we could have given and give it to somebody else to come in while we've got somebody that, and, you know, we're in a kind of a course of upheaval right now. And we're trying to deal with that, and it's a tough situation, and I appreciate Dee's position. For me personally, you know, the board members are entitled to make a motion and have that motion voted on, so, I will leave that out there.
Lee, if I may, I hate to throw you under the bus for a second, Brett, but I feel like the supervisor should, or could possibly utilize their emergency management coordinator to look into the ambulance. I mean, in my opinion, he is probably one of the most certified people to look into something like that. I'm not saying that's in your job purview or anything like that, but I mean, that's just a thought. That's just a thought.
Well, I think he's an extremely intelligent individual.
Oh, geez.
But that being said, that would put him in a rather very difficult situation in my estimation, because while he may have knowledge and expertise in that area, so do the people that are actually currently doing the job, number one. Number two, he has to work with those individuals in some very high stressful times.
So that means he already knows that.
Well, that's true, but so do they, and it's more important that there's a partnership there.
And he's also the fire chief of Fairfield, so I'm not sure about the bandwidth ability.
I think things would go a lot better. I think everybody would be more keen to the idea of the three of you going out and offering support in any way to the ambulance service. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to handle the pay sheets that could be turned in. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to do some of the more menial things that maybe could help Judy and the staff. If there were things that the three of you as their boss could go out and say, hey, if I do A, B, C, then that will leave you time to do D, E, and F. Maybe then, I mean, if there was an issue with efficiency, why are we bringing it up now that there's upheaval? If the three of you would go out as their boss and offer support and help in situations or in different facets, I think that would be huge, not only for the ambulance service, but for the county and the voters to see, hey, they're not spending money inefficiently. They are taking the bull by the horns and trying to make this better for everyone involved.
I don't disagree with you, Mark. I also think that it might help. There obviously those folks out there right now, they're looking to us, I think, I hope, because they're kind of in limbo themselves, all of them, not just the changes, and they're experiencing that upheaval.
Go be
And
present, build morale, see
right,
what you can do to help. And then in July, when you hire somebody else, that'll be their responsibility to determine efficiency. And a few months down the road, then you get into fall. If there's still issues, then that's something you guys can address at that point with the current director.
and in the case, one of the things here, I mean, we have an outside building company, and I'm not saying that they're what's we're looking for infallible by any stretch of the imagination. But that's one of the reasons that we went to an outside building company, was to ensure that the county was billing appropriately for services.
Yep.
And we've got a very good contractual arrangement in terms of cost, which I also believe is efficient. But anyway, again, I will throw it out to the board for them to make a determination as to what direction they would like to go.
I personally would like to have an audit of the operation. As with anything, when leadership changes and stuff, have an audit, go back and see what maybe you could have done better.
I agree.
So is that a motion?
Of course it is.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I thought we already had a motion.
No,
You
No.
do.
we do.
Yeah.
I didn't make the motion.
I'll tell you who did. Dee did,
Okay.
to open bids today to next Monday. But
Could we make it Friday, just so that
Yeah,
if we have it Friday by 3, then we can have them open on Monday and make a choice.
See, that's why we have you here, even though you can't jump on the trampoline.
Chauncey, do you want to get together and write up a bid?
Yeah, actually, I might pop by your office and wait for a little bit.
Well, just, no, call me or Zoom me. I'm
Yeah,
available today.
So are bids opening then today or on Friday?
We'll open them
Friday.
today, close them Friday,
at 3,
3 o'clock.
Have we voted on that yet?
No, I don't have a
I
motion.
thought.
You,
Just wait, Abby, because I'm gonna ask you to read it back.
okay, well, it's my own words because there was no actual motion.
On the website.
Did you work out this one?
I did. All right, so who is making that motion?
I,
Dee did.
I am.
To open bids today and close them at 3 PM on the 3rd, and those bids are to be delivered to the auditor's office.
Bye.
And they can be delivered by email or in person.
should be times.
We do that. Gotcha.
I just wanted to clarify.
Is there a second?
Okay, so we have a motion and a second.
Wait, who made the second? I missed that. Okay. Sorry.
All right, we'll try this again. We have a motion and a second to hire Brett for now.
Don't throw my name in that.
To submit request for proposal to audit the ambulance service with bids to be received by 3 o'clock Friday afternoon, to be open on Monday, May 6th. Okay, so we have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Aye. Motion passed. Okay. Now I gotta find my agenda. Committee reports. Susie.
Well, let me see. We had a meeting on what? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. On Thursday, I was at the EMS Advisory Council. And we were discussing the levy, the 75% levy, 75% levy. But there seemed to be a hiccup because we didn't have a budget in there and they wanted to see a budget.
As the vice chair of that committee, I requested to see a budget, just like during any other budget process that we go through. Nobody said that we weren't supporting that or recommending that.
No, I think around the room, everybody was
It's,
supporting
you
it.
know, just to do our due diligence as a committee to see what that looks like. And they've been in business now 6 months, so they should have a good understanding of their operating budget. And to see what routine expenditures are. And as tight as all the budgets are for everybody, I don't know that the general public is going to understand that basically it's just a change in taxing mechanism. And I think that that's gonna have to be explained, or it's not gonna pass. Even though we're already paying for an ambulance service with the current process, I don't think Joe Q Public is gonna understand that this levy is really already is already funding this.
Yeah.
So that was I brought it up, so we're having a special meeting.
I could have bet you would bring it up. Thank you, Chris.
Huh? Of course I'm gonna bring it up.
So they want to meet, they're going to meet again on the 16th
No.
of May.
Yes,
To read,
The 9th.
no,
Okay. Well, it's a good thing we had this conversation. I think I wrote down the
What
9th.
time?
8
no, it's
a.m.
the 16th
Okay.
at 8 o'clock.
They had discussed both days, but the 16th ended up being.
I'm the vice chair, Shelley's the chair, so we're gonna try to figure out if, I haven't had a chance to talk to her. If we are gonna move locations, we may request to meet here. So if we have any specific budget questions, Shannon would be accessible to answer those questions set forth by the committee versus meeting at the hospital and not having access to Shannon in the documents.
We don't know time yet.
That's
8 a.m.
8 o'clock.
You know, Chris, as we talked before, there's some positiveness to this because we need we need this committee's buy-in too to do this.
Right.
Because when we get their buy-in, they're gonna talk
Right.
and see how important this is.
I would say that the hospital was definitely in favor of seeing numbers
Yeah,
to
yeah,
support, just
I think,
Percentages is not good enough for that. They're
Yeah.
very analytical. They like numbers, just.
I think
what-
everybody in the
what
room
you're
wanted to
saying.
see the budget. Right. So it's just a little hiccup as far as I'm concerned in this process.
But you still have time. It's not like, that's why we're having a special meeting as quickly as we are, because we are not meeting again until August, because we only meet quarterly. So we call it a special meeting.
Yes. And Judy did not have the budget with her because I know someone's already been done. So this shouldn't take long.
Well,
When
and
in
that's-
August are you having your meeting?
Right.
May 16.
No, the next meeting, you mean the regular,
Yeah,
we were supposed to have it the Thursday before Ragbari's here, so did we set, I can't remember, what's the date, Brett? Do you remember? You're on that committee too. I'm not looking at that.
I think,
26th?
not
No, we were supposed to meet
I
the
think we're
25th, but we don't want to
next
meet that
week, the
week.
next week or so, right?
I don't know, is Shelley still on?
Mhm.
And
think so.
she's a chair. Please. We'll see if Sharon's.
it the first?
yeah, she is.
Okay.
Moved
maybe
it
she-
after.
Yeah, it was
I
after.
think it is. I think we pushed it the week after,
Papers you sign for the budget.
but it shouldn't impact any of the timeline that you set forth and shared, Abby.
Yeah,
I don't need one of
This is Shelley. It is scheduled for August 1st.
Thanks.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks.
I would like to have ballot language mid-August.
Just, and
Because there's a 60-day notice that I have to get into the paper.
Right, but if we have the meeting in May, the special
May
meeting, that's
9th.
when we'll get
May
the
16th.
That's when you'll have the ballot language.
We're gonna need some assistance in that.
Or you got a ballot language.
Which is why we meet here.
No, I
The only
know.
thing they need to figure out is the recommendation
Yeah.
for the number.
Yeah,
Right.
So
Yeah.
we'll plug that into the ballot language.
We've got time in our timeline,
Yeah.
I think.
yeah.
So just for the record, and we can have this as well, can I just copy?
Yeah.
We can have this for the record as well, but for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025, which is a year and a half, not quite, a little over a year from now, the fiscal budget for fiscal 24-25 is $1,492,000 for the ambulance. Now that'll be broken down, but that's the overall budget. Okay. What else you have?
That's it.
Yeah.
Other than all the quality time spent with you guys.
Well, yeah, well, that was the most fun.
I got some reports.
D,
The opioid meeting, we had a good
Oh, I like
turnout. Basically, I'm gonna work on writing up the notes from it this week. Some back to awareness, prevention and treatment. Some of the ideas that kind of bubbled to the top were first responder training for Narcan. Cassidy from CETA has several available programs that are at no charge. We talked about doing the My Ascension program or the Tall Cop, and there's a group working into that. So we'll have some groups like a parent provider training, Tall Cop, school and education, and a treatment, which will also look at the treatment going on in the jail. And looking at various different programs. The next meeting will be, let's see, probably June. And then we billed the city of Fairfield for the $14,333 for the rest of the ambulance. Shannon was able to find the minutes, and while I was in the office, Rebecca from the city just happened to call her, so the timing worked out really well. She said she would take it and put it on the council's agenda, so hopefully we'll get some money from that. I want to see about for the agenda for next week about possibly putting on to have a performance evaluation with the supervisors, with Judy. Just so we all three can have a discussion and clarify any questions or anything, comments we may have, and see if that's something you would like to do. And I also went to a food insecurity regional training. It was Thursday, and a lot of increased need on food in the food banks and locally. And there will be new statistics for the county and all the others coming out in June, so it'll be interesting to see. But all the use of the food banks is way increased, and it's not sustainable how much it's increased. So ongoing issues there. For those of you interested in mental health, there's an Iowa Ideas Conference, May 13th to 17th, and it's virtual. The Gazette and ITC are sponsoring it. It's called iowaideas.com. And they want to know what are the issues within the mental health system. I received this from the Mental Health Alliance, this formal SIL group. And so spread the word or register for that if you're interested. And if you go on that, iowaideas.com, they have agenda items for every day. So you can sign up for as many or all of them that you want.
That it?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So we'll start with Tuesday. I met with Chauncey and Sean and Becky Smits and Gina Edwards, and with the attorney that we have hired through to help us with the separation process, PNC Bank. They were the funding mechanism for Jackson Point through, and I'm not entirely familiar with the process, but they provide that front money and then they get tax credits. And over the years, they get the tax credits to recoup their money. And once they've gotten all of the goodie out of it, then they want to go ahead and go on down the road. So there's a separation process that has to be followed. They provided the Progressive Housing Corporation, which the county is not, has no money in this. They provided the Progressive Housing Corporation $15,000, up to $15,000 for the attorney.
They've hired counsel to represent the housing corporation. Mr. Cool, out of Ohio, specializes in these LIHTC funding mechanisms. So he puts these together and separates them. It's a very standard process. It seems a little bit convoluted, but this is how it works. The limited partner PNC provides the upfront funding. They get more than their funding in 15 years of tax credits than they get out. So this process is relatively straightforward, but it does require a lot of hoops to jump through. Mr. Cool is representing us for up to $15,000 authorized by PNC. I don't expect it's going to cost that much.
And so was good news. And Becky acknowledged that we all felt better coming out of the room after that than we did before we went in the room, because it's been, for those of us, it's been kind of a convoluted process, to say the least, or confusing process, maybe is a more appropriate term. Then moving forward, one of the things that the attorney advised us of was to bring in a nonprofit to replace PNC with an eye towards Iowa Finance Authority at some point in the future, potentially or possibly forgiving the loan. We don't know whether that'll happen or not. So we met with FIDA Friday. Very good meeting. I think it was very positive, and we'll see what comes out of that. Rust Board I had a meeting 10 a.m. on Wednesday. We approved the hiring of a new environmental specialist for Henry County. I'm on the McElhaney House Foundation Board. We met over there at 1 p.m. on Wednesday to discuss sewer project and funding. Just so that the world around us may know. Melba Dahl is in the hospital. She's our secretary treasurer, did a phenomenal job. Things are not going well. I'm sad to say. And then had 1015 transit, and I wanted to go back, in particular with Chris. Couple of things we talked about, and with Dee, we talked about potentially involving 1015 Transit to provide rides. So I did find out that folks who are going, say, for example, to CETA, to their program over there, it does qualify under Medicaid. So those transportation dollars are already paid, allocated. For those that don't fall under that umbrella, we certainly can work something out. So I recommend that whoever wants to reach out to Jay to make those. And one of the things that he said, I don't know if it's something that can be used, the funding can be used for or would want to. But he says one of the things that has been very, very positive is the advertising on the side of their buses. So if we advertise for riders for specific uses, that would let the world potentially know. So 1015 Transit is already involved in it to a point and is more than willing to get further involved in it, just so you know. Susie had a question the other day about it, about their funding, where they were at. And I will tell you that the combined total that we'll receive from the state and for the feds for 1015 Transit for this next fiscal year will be $2,579,000. And the combined total for fixed route from the state and the federal, and they are separate, even though we run, 1015 runs the fixed route in the Tumble, it is separate from 1015 Transit in the 10 counties, will be $1,016,000. So, you know, we're looking at nearly $3.6 million of revenue coming in. And we also, we are looking to become a 503C. Did I say that right?
501c3.
Thank you, 501c3, specifically for the veterans, right? So that we can accept donations for the veterans. To date, this fiscal year through March of 24, we've spent $123,650 on veteran transportation. And we transport veterans at no charge wherever they need to go. So that's all I have. Would entertain a motion, if you have the numbers, Susie, to allow claims and approve reports.
I don't have it right on me, but those didn't get to it.
Okay.
In the amount of $175,149.08.
What's? No, we have a motion to approve claims in the amount of 175,000.
149 dot 08.
149.08. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All of those in favor say aye.
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 And I would like to extend my thanks and appreciation to all of those who participated in the meeting and the discussion, because it does help us. And we'll move forward from there. So I'm not going to ask you where you're at. Are you having fun?
Grandkids.
Oh, well, okay, that answers that question. So if there isn't anything else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We got a motion and a second. Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thanks again, everybody. Appreciate it.